If you're a beginner and you want to get some quick tips, make sure to watch this video. I'm going to explain to you how and when to do footlocks. Hope you enjoy. Alright, so first I'm going to explain to you guys why footlocks are such a nice option to add to your game. I'm going to show you how to do the footlock, what are the mechanics behind them, and I'll also talk a little bit about the rules. I've gone in a lot more detail in the video from a while back. I'll put it in one of the corners, but I'll tell you something about the rules and also one of my tips for you guys when you're starting out with footlocks. So why are footlocks so important to learn? Footlocks are a very accessible submission. I say this about the guillotine as well, but it's quite easy to get to the feet. Whenever Bart is standing, I can just pull myself underneath. Like, of course, the better he gets, the more more complicated my entries will be. But I can just go in and attack his foot. It's not like a rear naked choke. Rear naked choke is, of course, the best submission there is. But for a rear naked choke, I need to first find a way to take Bart down. Then I need to pass his guard, find a way to make Bart turn, go to his back, and then I can go for the rear naked choke. The footlock is always available. So when you're playing guard, just pull yourself underneath and get to the foot. So it's a very accessible submission, combines well with wrestling up, combines well with a lot of other attacks, with sweeps, so it's very important to learn. Let's take a look at the mechanics now. The idea with a footlock is we want to overextend the foot, and with the mechanics I'm going to show you now, we're also bending the foot in half like this a little bit. So the footlock you usually enter from single leg kicks or from ashigarami. Let's say Bart is standing up. Here, we'll start with a very basic entry, so his feet are on the same line. I just grab both of the legs and I pull myself in. Let's look at it from a different angle. So Bart's in front of me, his legs are on the same line. I grab both of the legs, I slide myself underneath and I lock him up. My foot doesn't cross the midline, my knees squeeze together, and here I try to drop him to the floor. Whenever you're doing a footlock, you need your partner's butt on the floor. There are some rare exceptions. But if the butt is on the floor, that usually means that the foot is off the floor. If Bart can keep his foot on the floor, I can't overextend his foot because the floor is in the way. So that's an important detail. First bring them to their butt. There are again exceptions, but only then you go after the footlock. From here, I like to slide down the leg. I want to be at the end of the lever. I don't want to be on his calf. I want to be right at the end. So I usually use the metaphor of like a zip line. You go down the zip line until you get stopped at the end of the zip line. Here. Now you're good. You'll feel when you get stopped. And look at my butt and my chest are on the same place. So I don't want to be like using my belly muscles. I want to be sitting rather straight. From here, my hand goes through. I grab his shin and I grab my own wrist. This is a very strong mechanic. In the gi, you could grab your collar. No gi, I like to grab my own wrist. Another very important detail. Upper body is in place now. We need to control Bart's hips. If Bart doesn't have anything on his hips, he can just stand up and alleviate the pressure, and I get put down. So I need to control his hips. Again, we don't cross the midline, we squeeze our knees, this should be good. Now I'm gonna move my elbow towards my hip a little bit and start bringing my shoulder down to the mat until he taps. With any submission, any joint lock at least, we always need to control the joints above and below the joint we're attacking. So what I'm doing is, my armpit is gonna eat his toes. If Bart can boot, so he makes his foot strong, now it's gonna be hard to finish. But if I can bend his toes with my armpit, I'm controlling the joint above, I'm controlling the hips, I'm controlling the shin. Now we can start breaking the ankle. So again, the mechanics, look, I'm on my elbow, I'm not already on my shoulder. I'm on my elbow, I pull my elbow slightly back, and now I start bringing my shoulder back to the mat as I control his hips. So this is a basic way to footlock, quite a strong one as well. This is one I actually use. It's not like, okay, white belts do this, and then when you get better, you do something entirely different, like with an armbar from close guard, for example. No, this is actually how I do footlocks a lot. So that's how you can play around with it. Now let's talk a little bit about the rules, because footlocks, especially for beginners, it's hard to understand what you can and can't do. I'm talking about most rule sets here. They will depend on competitions. Again, more detail in the video on one of these corners. But the main rules you should pay attention to. First one, you can only turn towards the foot you're attacking. So if I'm attacking this foot, I can only turn that way. I won't be able to turn this way. This is illegal because it starts bending his knee to the inside. That's what they don't want. I turn it always to the outside. Rule number one, turn towards the foot you're attacking. Rule number two, don't cross this midline. This foot can't pass the midline. Okay? Don't cross it across the midline. Mostly because of the rules, but also when you do this, you're vulnerable to counters. Even if it's allowed, I wouldn't recommend it because Bart can KD corkscrew.
So?
Yeah, he can do some very nasty counters. So we don't want to do that. We keep our toes to the outside, we don't cross the midline. Okay, now my personal rule for you guys. It's not a rule in the rule book, but it's my big recommendation. Footlocks are very strong. Dat had ik aan het begin moeten doen. Maar niet, we gaan door. We keep going. Okay, now my personal recommendation for you. This is not in the rule book, but it's something I definitely recommend to keep in mind. Only do footlocks from bottom. So when you're playing guard, go for footlocks. When you're top, don't fall back for footlocks. Why? Especially in the beginning, footlocks are very strong and a lot of people tap to them easily. They don't know how to defend. You can get a lot of quick, easy taps in the gym, but also in competition. Now this can be a shortcut. So let's say I start with jiu-jitsu and Bart is kicking my ass every time. He's sweeping me, he's putting me in triangles from guard, and then I learn the footlock. So instead of trying to pass Bart's guard, every time I get on top with him, I just fall back and get a footlock. And Bart taps. Now this works really well at white belt. Now when I get my blue belt, Bart also got a little bit better. He starts to know how to defend footlock. So every time I fall back, he might be able to get out of the footlock, get on top. Then I'm down by 2 points. The better people get, the better they get at defending footlocks, but they also get a little bit more resilient. This is what I noticed myself as well. When I got my blue belt, I learned the footlock and I had a lot of success with it. But then when I went to purple, to brown belt, footlocks became harder and harder because a lot of people, especially at high level competitions, they are willing to take slight injuries on the foot. They rather sit out for 2-3 weeks and win the fight, even though they got injured with the footlock, than that they tap to the footlock. So the better you get, the harder it is to tap people with footlocks. Now this isn't a problem if you do it from bottom. So let's say Bart is standing up, I get my footlock here, I try, but Bart's really good at defending. I just turn it into a sweep. Now I'm up 2 points and probably an advantage because I had to defend the footlock. So when you do footlocks, do them from bottom, don't do them from top. If you do them from top, you might get easy wins in the beginning, but later on, you're gonna have trouble. And next to that, you won't learn how to pass guard. And guard passing is one of the most important and toughest skills to learn. So it's good you start that early. Don't just take that shortcut of doing footlocks from top. Just do them from bottom. Most important mechanics when you start with footlocks. So hope you guys have some success with it. Try them out in training. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Like, subscribe, comment, you know the drill, and see you guys next time.